If you want to level up fast and easy in Diablo 4, I suggest you this build for Rogue. And it's gonna be extremely good for beginners because it provides a lot of survivability. I mean, it will be super hard for you to die. This build is a little bit unusual because it's a melee build for Rogue, and most players are suggesting different builds with twisting blades. And yeah, this skill is pretty strong, I admit. But you will have more survivability with Flurry. And there's yet another reason why I guess this build will be better at the release of Diablo 4. I say twisting blades may be nerfed. So the first skill we are taking is Puncture. We're throwing blades for short distance and we are dealing damage, but most importantly, every third cast slows enemies by 20% for 2 seconds, and every critical strike will always slow. Why is it so important? Because slow means crowd control, and later you will see why we need a lot of crowd control. Oh, actually, right now you can see it. It is because the enhanced puncture gains 2 energy every time when your puncture damages a crowd-controlled enemy. And remember, they will be slowed. But even better here is the fundamental puncture. What does it mean? You will split the puncture into 3 blades, each dealing only 35% of base damage, but hitting an enemy with 2 blades at the same time, which will almost always happen if you're fighting at the close range, will make them vulnerable for 2 seconds. And we need enemies to be vulnerable. Why? Well, because healing. Well, look here, we're taking Flurry. It is gonna be our main skill that we're gonna be making damage with. It is an AoE skill, it unleashes a flurry of stabs and slashes to strike enemies in front of you 4 times. But the most important here is enhanced flurry, because each time flurry damages a crowd-controlled or vulnerable enemy, and as you remember, puncture makes your enemies vulnerable, you are healed for 1% of your maximum life and up to 12% of your maximum life, which is quite good already, but then we have also an easy way to make all enemies around you vulnerable. It is improved Flurry. If Flurry hits any vulnerable enemy, it will make all enemies hit by that cast vulnerable for 3 seconds. So actually, how it works? We just use puncture on one enemy on a close range, it becomes vulnerable. We use Flurry and boom, all enemies around us are vulnerable. Profit! And to add even more survivability, we're taking Sturdy. This gives us 4% close damage reduction, and we are gonna be fighting on a close range. And siphoning strikes are actually maxing this out, because it would heal you for 3% of your maximum life when you critically strike close enemies, which will happen a lot. And now let's see another thing. A lot of players prefer to take Dash for mobility, and yes, Dash is quite good, but I would prefer Shadow Step here. And the main reason is because when we are using it, we become unstoppable. And what it means actually, it means that even if we are stunned, we can use it and stop being stunned. And based on my experience in Diablo 4, the most times that you're gonna be dying, it's when a boss or another enemy stuns you, especially when you have so much heal as you do in this build. So we want it, it's pretty good, it's only 9 seconds cooldown, but it can be even better because the enhanced gives us additional critical strike chance against the enemies that we are damaging with a Shadow Step, and there is more crowd control. Enemies damaged with Shadow Step are stunned for 2 seconds. And yeah, actually it is possible to take a decreased cooldown, but I like more the crowd control, and it is especially good against bosses. And of course, crowd control doesn't work directly against bosses, you know, because the bosses have immunity against the crowd control effects, but by applying different crowd controls, you will fill the line beneath the boss's health line, and once this line is full, the boss has all the crowd control effects, including stuns, so you know, this means that you will be hitting it. Then what's next? Weapon Mastery. It's extremely good, you should necessarily take it, especially if you're using swords. And now we're moving to our next skill, and again, from what I know, it is not the most popular choice, but I like it very much, because yet again it gives you unstoppable, even more ways to survive. Besides being unstoppable, you can also go stealth when you're using it. It does have 20 seconds of cooldown, but you have already 2 sources of being unstoppable, and there will be even more, spoiler. And you restore energy. So then, in tough situations, when you're low on health, when you have no energy, just use concealment and go stealth for 4 seconds, restore energy, and actually it's a good idea to take a critical strike as well. Because we do not need any more ways to make our enemies vulnerable, they will be vulnerable always in any way. Dark Shroud will be a good alternative if you don't think that you need so many ways to survive when stunned. Consider taking Dark Shroud, it's an extremely good damage reduction skill for Rogue. And now as for imbuement. The most popular choice here will be Shadow, because it provides a lot of AoE damage and also you will be restoring lots of energy while killing trash mobs. But what I found out is that there is actually enough AoE just from Flurry already. That's why, in my opinion, Shadow is a little bit of overkill here. And frankly, I didn't have any problems with trash mobs, so I might consider taking the Poison Imbuement when I level up. But while you're still in process of leveling up, Cold Imbuement may be a better option, because it not only chills enemies, but it also freezes them, which is why I think this one is really great. And don't forget the Precision Imbuement, this critical strike chance is really nice. Now, as for upgrades for Cold Imbuement, we don't really need this enhanced version, because as I've already mentioned, we have a lot of other ways to make our enemies vulnerable. What we want is blended Cold Imbuement, and so we're taking it because of the lucky hit with the critical strikes with Cold Imbue skills that have an up to 20% chance to instantly freeze the enemies for 3 seconds. Now moving on, it might be a good idea to take a Death Trap as your ultimate, but I prefer a Shadow Clone. Because again, it makes you unstoppable and it gives you a lot of extra damage, because it creates a clone of yourself and it deals 60% of your damage plus 20% of additional damage, which is of course very good. And considering we're so much into lucky hit, you might consider taking Second Wind as well. This is because you will be spending lots of energy, and so spending 100 will grant you 5% increased chance for a lucky hit for 5 seconds, and above this you can even increase it up to 15%. Next thing I would suggest here is taking Momentum, because Cutthroat skills, which we're gonna be using, it is Flurry, will grant a stack of momentum for 8 seconds. It will happen if you hit a stunned, dazed or frozen enemy, and we're gonna be hitting frozen enemies a lot. Or else if you hit an enemy from behind, and remember, this is exactly what Shadow Step does. And so we are gonna be making these 3 stacks pretty easy. While fighting enemies, you're gonna be having these bonuses all the time. What's especially awesome about this build is that it really works even if you don't have cool items. It's just you're not gonna be dying. You will be killing regular enemies, you will be killing bosses. Basically, you will have no problems at all, so let me know in the comment section what you think about this build. I hope you liked it. Thank you for your attention. Bye bye!